So if you listened to the news earlier this week, you know that we promised part 2 of the news. We're doing something a little bit different this week. There's so much to talk about, and we just thought we'd do 2 news episodes. So, why not?
It's after the snap now.
That's how it is. So we're back with part 2, the revenge of the news.
The resurrection.
This week. Let's continue.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
Let's start with wherever we left off on our list from last time. Where would that be? I got to start with some bad news.
For God's sake, don't repeat anything we've already done.
We've never done that before. I took care to delete all the ones we've done already, I think. Let's start with some bad news. Unfortunately, Dr. Mike, 2 incidents this week in Poland having to do with coal mines. And a reminder of the, one, the obvious danger of the job, and 2, how common it still is in Poland today.
Actually, this is ongoing news right now because as of the moment of recording, they're still trying to pull those miners out. There were 2 incidences in the past week. In the first situation, the rescuers realized that they can't do anything more. They basically said, the fires are burning, there's no oxygen there, we can't go back down. Not for the next couple of months. Then 3 days later, one mine just about 5 or 6 miles over, similar situation, cave-in, methane explosion, fire. 5 people died right away. They pulled out a bunch quickly, though they have to go back down to try to rescue more people. I think there's still about, at the moment of this recording, about half a dozen still down there, and they just don't know if they can get to them or not.
There's been injuries to rescuers as well, hasn't there?
Yes, exactly.
Josh, it's weird that, coal mining goes back, it's a big part of human history going back thousands of years. And it's amazing and kind of sad that even today we still don't have anything that can protect us from the consequences of methane explosions.
Well, and I have to say this nagged at me a little bit when I saw the initial news about the first explosions, because I was reminded of, I don't know, like science lessons as a kid, really. Like there were these great advances made in the late 18th century, I think, with the invention of the safety lamp, and there was this whole issue of pockets of methane as you're digging underground being released, and of course back in the day, miners were carrying candles, which was obviously not a very safe thing to be doing if you were in contact with an extremely flammable gas, and in an environment where there's a lot of coal dust in the air, coal dust in itself being intrinsically flammable. And I thought, well, surely, you can't eliminate the presence of methane, but you can surely mitigate the chances of an explosion occurring. And I just have to wonder, methane in itself is not going to do anything unless it's exposed to a spark. And I thought that there were measures such as wearing rubber shoes and ensuring that you don't have any kind of metal stuff, so that the likelihood of sparks being created wouldn't happen. But of course, you still have the situation where you have actually got to mine the coal, and presumably kind of chipping coal out of rock does somewhat.
Machinery, there's tools.
Yeah.
Well, sympathy to everybody involved, but it's just really sad to see this kind of thing. But again, it just seems
the government says they're going to investigate because it turns out it's the same corporation that owns both of these mines, which are also state-owned. But from what I've heard, experts are saying that these accidents are not connected. It's random bad luck.
Isn't it the case that, again, we don't know what happened here because, as you said, the investigation is just getting started. But even under the best optimal conditions, following the highest safety standards, it's still, the nature of the job is still such that it happens.
You're a kilometer underground in small little dark tunnels with coal dust in the air, and every time you're chipping away at something, you could be letting methane and other gases leak out.
It's interesting, isn't it? In recent years, the whole thing about coal mining has mainly revolved around if you like, the environmental impact of using coal as an energy source. But actually, for as long as there has been mining in any form whatsoever, it's always been considered like a ghastly and like incredibly dangerous job. And the number of lives that have been lost with mining coal completely dwarfs any other figures for, comparable energy generation sort of sources.
Well, that's actually kind of why in Poland and in other countries, miners generally have this kind of status and culture of, being protected. Why miners, in communist Poland, and even like now in Poland, basically are also paid a lot more, have all these extra perks.
Well,
it's a high-risk job. That is crucial to the economy because of the energy it provides. So it's kind of expected that they'll be treated with a little bit of extra care. And usually when you're a miner, you don't work for 60 years. You work for 20 years, and then you can go into retirement because, hey, if you survive that long, you kind of deserve it.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't aware that there was still that much deep coal mining going on either. I was under the impression that like a big chunk of Polish coal production was what certainly used to be called open cast mine. When you have these
like the surface pits.
Yeah, and you have like big mechanical diggers just sort of.
Yeah, I've actually more of that in Germany than in Poland.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The brown coal, but yeah, it's huge here in Poland, and Poland has huge reserves of coal as well. Apparently, it could meet the needs of Poland's energy needs for about 300 years.
Let's move on from coal. Talk about skateboarding.
Yeah, of course.
Here in Krakow, there's a place called Plac Matejki, which you should know, just across the street from the Barbican, of course. It's got a statue there commemorating the Battle of Grunwald, if I'm not mistaken. But also, unfortunately, for some people, the design of the statue is such that it's appealing for skateboarders who take great pleasure in jumping off of the side of the statue, Dr. Mike?
I mean, there's a huge amount of like just flat pavement there. And plus, you're right, the statue and everything like that is fun, great for tricks and stuff like that. It's perfect for skateboarding, rollerblading. Well, actually, I don't think anybody rollerblades anymore because it's not 1996 anymore.
But, wake up, man.
Sorry. But people living around there, walking around there, complain to the police often about the noise. It's not a matter, kids can do whatever they want. The thing is, it is actually loud. If you're living there, skateboards aren't quiet, especially, in the late evening. But the city hasn't been able to do much about it because, according to law, it's a public street, it's a public area. They can do what they want to do. So
you can't shoot skateboarders, can you?
Don't think so. I have to check, but I don't think so. No.
Let's check.
Nobody's sympathetic to skateboarders. Everybody has a beef with skateboarders, I think.
So basically, the city has decided that their
noise they make and just it's de facto vandalism.
Scruffy clothes, like unkempt hair.
Exactly.
Damn kids. So the city has decided that they would. Right now, the plaza area there is designated as public street, which means that you cannot bar access to it, and you can't introduce any type of laws or regulations that will limit the type of activity that can happen there. The city is suggesting that they will, first of all, they will bring in, as a temporary measure, kind of a stopgap, just chains and poles there to limit access to it.
Chains.
It's just
Get the chains out. We'll show these skateboarders.
Just so it makes it more
really
difficult.
Ominous.
And but afterwards, they plan on changing the designation of the area there to no longer be a public road there, but an actual plaza. Once it's a plaza, the city can bring in regulations saying that it is not.
I'm going to blame the skateboarders here for causing their own problems. They should know that you can't go to a place like Plac Matejki with the significance that it has and turn it into your own private skateboarding bowl. No, stay
especially
in your
at
neighborhoods,
1 a.m.
in the suburbs, wherever you live. Find a place, do it there, and nobody will bother you. But what you think you're going to go to a very public, almost iconic place like that, and nobody's going to push back? I mean, how stupid are you? Come on.
So the thing is, right now, when Strasmejska showed up there, they could talk to them, but they couldn't ticket them for anything because it was a public street. So they were allowed to do that. So if they changed the legal definition, recognition of that area in the next couple of months or a year or so, then the police will able to show up and say, like, okay,
does that mean the skateboarders will go on strike?
I hope so. Get a new hobby, skateboarders.
Actually, I think it's funny because skateboarding was 80s, 90s, and then disappeared. I think 5 years ago.
Yeah, just like rollerblades.
It came back again.
What, did it come back again? Really?
Skateboarding, yeah. It was never big in Poland in the 70s and 80s the way it was in the U.S. When I came here in the 90s, it really didn't exist. There was some rollerblading, but now it's popped up. Now I see skateboards.
Like a retro revival thing, I guess. Huh? Let's move on to, here's some fighting words here. This happened last week when we were off before the big election in France this past weekend, but President and now re-elected President Emmanuel Macron. Josh, is that good enough? Macron.
Macron.
Yeah. In an interview, he referred to the Polish Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, as a far-right anti-Semite. Now, those are really strong words to throw around, especially from
nowhere. Yeah,
from a head of state to a head of government. For very high-ranking people, you would think that there would be kind of like an understood agreement between European leaders. That let's not call each other right-wing anti-Semites unless we really have to. Over the line, or what?
It's a really odd one, isn't it? I mean, not least because actually France has a fairly substantial Polish diaspora going back 100 years plus, and I don't know. I mean, Macron's slightly trying to cover his ass in terms of his previous dealings with the Russian president.
Well, yeah, just a bit of context here. This comes after suggestions from Morawiecki that Macron was a little too buddy-buddy with Putin. So basically, this was Macron saying, shut up about that, you right-wing anti-Semite.
You're an anti-Semitic, kind of anti-gay homophobe.
Right.
Well, not least, I've seen revelations just in the last few days that apparently Germany and France both had been selling substantial quantities of arms under the counter to the Russian. The Russian
and the whole anti-Semitic angle as well is a little funny because, France is right now famous for all the anti-Semitic attacks.
Yeah, Macron, tell us how many synagogues were attacked in your country and how many Jews were attacked on the street in your country versus here in Poland. So shut up.
Yeah.
Not sympathetic at all.
No.
Didn't like him before. I really don't like him now, but
no.
Nobody asked for my opinion, so I'll just keep talking. What else we got here? Oh, here's a weird story. Happened last week. It was a small town not far from Krakow. Where was this? Warsaw. Libyange, not far from here, actually. A woman, she's at one of these supermarkets with one of these self-checkout things, and deliberately, not by accident, she switches she in the scanning machine, whatever you call it, she tells the machine she's buying a grapefruit instead of some Schlievek, plums, exactly, plums, and mandarins,
yeah.
and pears. In other words, she's trying to pay for the cheaper piece of produce. She gets caught. It's all caught on tape, obviously, because these things are monitored, and she's facing 8 years in the can, as we street people say,
can fruit. Yeah,
8 years in the can for this kind of what most people would think is a fairly minor offense. Dr. Mike, how is this possible that she's looking at 8 years?
Well, we have to remember that she's not being charged with stealing here, which would basically be a shorter sentence. It's fraud. Fraud basically means, you're faking documentation, you're lying to somebody, and fraud in Poland has the potential for up to 8 years of jail time. Fraud being here that she told that the system that she's buying X product when she's actually buying Y product, switching the label.
Now, she walks out the door, just puts it in the bag, walks out the door. That's stealing. Completely different crime.
Yes.
But instead, she tells the machine, I'm buying this, when in fact she's buying that. And under Polish law, as you say, fraud.
It's fraud. If she had walked out the door, she'd be facing less jail time. But let's be honest.
Facing any jail time, I
it has to do as well then in how much of the value of what she's stealing as well. But the thing is, she's not going to get 8 years of jail, that's for sure.
Of course not.
The judge will say, it's low social impact of your crime. If she gets 6 months suspended sentence, I would be surprised. But it is kind of funny to hear that you kind of switch the labels around on your products and you can get up to 8 years of jail, which is less than you get for rape here.
Yeah, it's just, we beat up on the Polish justice system quite a lot because, from time to time we get these examples that kind of, these little wrinkles that kind of illustrate the discrepancy between what is fairly a minor offense versus more serious offenses that are not punished. I mean, very often, not to make light of it, of course, but people convicted of rape or even murder serve less than 10 years in prison and walk free. And this woman is facing 8, again, theoretically, for switching out, fruit at a supermarket checkout. It's just absolutely bizarre. But
I'll be honest, I'm always a little worried about those self-checkout places because I'll get something and I'm holding. I have trouble telling the difference between a zucchini and a pickle sometimes. Big long green thing, priced very differently, oddly enough. And then you get like, say, oranges, and one is a navel orange, another is an orange from Spain. One is like 10 zlotys a kilo, the other one is 9 zlotys a kilo or something like that. You're like, which one did I get?
I've been in a situation at Auchan a few times where I was ready to check out, but the red light starts flashing up there, right, to call somebody to have a look. And it turns out that I had 3 of something, for example, and I scanned 2, or something that was in the bag, I didn't scan it at all. But I'm sure that I scanned it. I heard the beep and I kept going, right? So my point is, it's very easy to alleged so-called defraud them, with no bad intentions, just by mistake.
I think it might well be built into the system that it's going to kind of bleep and alert, even if you haven't done anything wrong, just so that it keeps people on their toes, and to reduce the temptation to try and sneak a few things past.
True.
Okay, so if there's someone kind of springing out of the back office to come and have a look, then you're less likely to take the risk of.
John, where did you say you were buying this stuff? I think that kind of leads into our another story there that we have this week.
Does it, Dr. Mike?
French corporation, multinational, with interests in a country that's kind of unpopular.
Since I've been pushed along here, I'll go with the flow. Protests this week at Auchan, and also another big French company, Leroy Merlin. Leroy Merlin. The home, what do you call that stuff? Oh, DIY.
Home Depot wannabe.
Home Depot, basically, I call it. Because they're still doing business in Russia, and according to some people, this means that they have blood on their hands because they are supporting the Russian regime. Guys, we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What do you make of people who still insist that if you haven't withdrawn from Russia, business-wise, you are somehow supporting their campaign against Ukraine?
For me, it's the boycotts and these things are always about public perception and PR, and you have to make a choice right now. The public is against Russia. As a business, you have to make a choice. Are you going to support or not support Russia? They don't lose that much money pulling out. The kind of sanctions that are happening right now mean that they would have limited business anyway then. They should be pulling out. But as Macron and Le Pen said during these elections right now, the French corporations can do what they want to do. And I, as a consumer, I have a choice. I can, I'll go to Obi. I will go to Auchan. I'll go to, oddly enough, Carrefour, I think, has pulled out, actually. I have choices. I have options. And, I'll make the company pay, or actually not pay because they won't get my money.
Any thoughts, Josh?
Well, no, more or less. I mean, this is, of course, one of the joys of living in more or less a free market society, that you don't have to kind of only buy from the government and the monopoly. You can actually choose to take your business elsewhere if the ownership of one of the companies that you might otherwise be shopping at is conducting its business in a manner that you consider to be unethical.
I think this will. If the conflict keeps going, the pressure will grow on Leroy Merlin and other brands to get out, because in a social media world where these campaigns can start to damage them in terms of PR and whatnot, it's just not a good look if you're still there in month 3 or 6 or God forbid 12 or whatever. So eventually it could work, I think, if it becomes a long-term thing. But in the short term, I don't know. I don't think if you're doing business in Russia that it means you have blood on your hands. Just out of curiosity, I looked into Mercedes and BMW because I'm quite sure that they do very good business in Russia. And from what I can tell, both of them, their retail salons are still operating, but both of them have stopped production in Russia, where they had production, and are no longer importing new models into there. And I don't think that's so much of a moral stand as a practical consideration. There's a war going on, and we just, can't get involved in that right now. You have to also remember,
sanctions kind of prevent these things. So, the dealerships there can be franchises or privately owned there,
right.
And they they might have a deal with Mercedes to buy cars from them, but they can't buy cars from there. So they buy cars from Mercedes, but say through a third party right now. So it's still getting to them anyway, one way or another.
They have a gang of operatives stealing them off the streets of Berlin. And
entirely possible.
Like the 80s all over again.
Yeah.
Entirely possible. Let's move on.
Oh God! I just remember like they had those like Russian socialites in Dubai or somewhere complaining about the fact that Chanel is no longer
socialites in inverted in quotes, right?
Yeah, exactly. No longer selling to Russia, so they were tearing and like knifing and ripping apart these Chanel bags in Dubai. And I'm thinking like, wait, you just went to Dubai, bought these bags from Chanel for $5,000, $10,000 and ripped them apart on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. But you still have to buy those bags. So Chanel is no longer, not only are they getting credit for the fact that they're no longer selling to you, they're making money off of you because you're still buying those bags. Plus, you're giving them free advertising. Go you.
Let's move on to the subject of sausage. Kielbasa. Okay, a little bit of background here. If you lived here in Krakow, if you have lived here for some time, you almost certainly know that there is a blue van that parks in front of Hala Targowa in the evening, nighttime hours, sells sausages on a grill they set up.
No double entendre here or anything else.
It's an institution. It's been there for forever, basically.
It's a sausage factory.
If it has a name, I'm not aware of it, like a brand name, but we just call it the blue van. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And I've said before on our show, maybe more than once, that I've always been baffled
more than
at how popular, how well known this place is, because in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing special about what they're selling. It's the same sausage you get anywhere. Maybe if you're drunk at 2 a.m, it tastes extra good, just like everything does. But I just don't get the popularity of this place at all. Well, anyway, they're in the news this week. They're in the news because of a price increase they announced. Now, maybe it's in the news because it's part of a larger subject of inflation and things like that. But anyway, they're raising the prices of their sausages from 12 to 15 zlotys, and this is a sausage that as recently as 2019. 3 years ago, cost 10. So in the space of 3 years, it's gone from 10 to 15 zlotys. God knows what it's going to be next year. Guys, two issues here. Inflation, we all know it's affecting all of us, even the blue sausage van. And two, what the hell? Why do people care about this place so much, Dr. Mike?
It's more of an institution. It's always been there. As a student here in the early 2000s, being a little tipsy, coming back from Kazimierz, it was there
Story
at 3 in the morning. I didn't want a kebab. I didn't want a zapiekanka. The blue van was there. And it was always more or less dirt cheap. It was like basically the price of one beer was I would get a nice freshly grilled sausage.
Also virtually instant, which you cannot say for a zapiekanka.
Yeah.
They do take a long time, don't they?
Jesus. I mean, for something that is kind of branded as a sort of Polish domestic fast food, like the zapiekanka is hellish slow.
It's like even if you're the only one there and ask for something, it's like 10 minutes before you get it.
Minimum 10 minutes, yeah.
Also, with this blue van, the last time I walked by there, I made a point of slowing down to look at the operation, and I did not see a cash register there.
No.
I don't think any receipts are being given out. So I'm curious about the tax authorities bust people for selling, if you're 1 zloty short on your tax return, they'll hound you till the end of the earth and take you to court. These people are out there for decades, selling these mediocre third-rate sausages that are somehow really popular, in cash. Everybody knows it and nothing happens.
I wonder if this will be the last ever episode of the KrakCast.
Yeah, we're going to get a visit next week. Very serious people.
Police,
the sausage police.
Josh, do you want to break the tie here on?
Well, look,
special
I
or
mean,
not?
there's no, it's not. But it's all been covered, really. I mean, when you've had a few lagers, it's 2-3 a.m. and you're staggering home, and there's that smell of grilled food. And you just fancy a little something, and what you see is what you get. It's like not the best sausage in the world. I don't think anyone's arguing that, except the really drunk guy who's just bought his and going like, "Oh man, this is the best sausage in the world."
Hey.
It's not. It's like, it's fun. I mean, it's weird you talk about the price, because I mean, it's obviously a very long time since I had one, but I'm pretty sure that I paid $6 for the last one that I had.
15 sound, yeah, Dr. Mike lives wrong. Dr. Mike lives like across the street from this place.
I've gone there for a meal.
Does 15 sound like we're kind of pushing the limits now?
I didn't know they were at 12. I thought the last time I heard, I was like, I remember it being at 10 and thinking this is expensive, but at least it's like an even number. So I didn't even know they were at 12, but I haven't been there for about a year or so. And now you're telling me it's at 15. 15 just sounds odd.
It's a lot.
I remember when kebabs were 5 zlotys.
That's a lot, yeah. I was at a restaurant the other day in my neighborhood, in a little Italian restaurant, and they charge 15 zlotys for a tischia.
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
Which is what I would expect to pay in the Rynek. No, this is out where I live. So suddenly everything is this crazy, stupid prices now.
Yeah, I know you can get a beer for less than 10 now, even in a, like just a like bare bones
Probably
bar.
not. Good mission. Find a beer for less than 10. Let's move on. A couple of days ago, we had the Cracovia Marathon, which is the most prominent of like 19 or 27 different marathons that we have this time of the year that shut down the city. So thousands of people can run through the rain, as they did in this case a couple of days ago. Guys, you will not believe this, but a guy from Kenya won the race.
Oh, well, that's very unusual. A Kenyan winning a marathon.
Never happens.
Did you know, John, actually, and I'm not really hijacking this story, but I discovered the night before the marathon that not only was there going to be a marathon on the Sunday, but there was actually a night marathon or a night half marathon.
There is, yes. That's right.
Taking place that night.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, God, does that mean that there's the risk when you're staggering out half cut from your night of harmless carousing that you run the risk of bumping into exhausted, space blanket clad, sinewy individuals who for some reason think it's a marvelous idea to trot the streets
the night marathon? I think there was a Paralympic version as well, which I think ran on the same day as the regular marathon.
Well, I'm not going to say anything sarcastic about that.
No, let's leave them alone. For sure. But we've ranted about marathons before, but it's a bit of a cliche now. I think Kenyans have won it every year for the last 12 or 14 years. Basically, if there's Kenyans in the race, they
I just thought it was funny. The Kenyan won, and second place was a Polish person, yes, 20 minutes later. 20 minutes.
That's like an average of like 30 seconds slower per kilometre, isn't it? Very roughly speaking.
Here's another weird story. There's a couple of angles to this one. Okay, so it's a cheerleading team from a small town close to Tarnów. The place is called Bobrovnik Wielkich. Or Bobrovnik, that sounded like a doo-wop song there. I just did that.
It did, actually. Yeah,
Bobrovnik Wielka, I guess it would be
translate the name
on the map. And they went to Florida, for a cheerleading competition. Now, let's stop there for a second. We'll go further. Now, I didn't know cheerleading was a thing in small towns close to Tarnów, but once again, I'm proven wrong. So they go to Orlando, they enter the competition, and they win. They're really good, apparently. Well done, girls.
They didn't win. They got bronze, third place.
Well, I mean, they were among the winners. That's what I went. They were
against American competition.
Yes.
So it's really, really good. Now, here two things here. One, for some reason, I don't know what. Maybe, Dr. Mike, maybe you know. For some reason, the name of the place where they were from was translated into English.
Yes.
Why was it translated? And give us what the translation was.
I came across on like one of these random websites the translation because it's Bobrovnik.
You check cheerleader websites, do you? Okay.
Bobrovnik Wielki, which kind of translates into Great Beaver or Beaverton or something like that. So like when you're thinking like if you're Googling cheerleaders, Great Beaver, anything, you're going to kind of want to...
Why did I open the door for that?
You're definitely going to want to clear that search history or at least
Beaverton. So I don't know why they felt they needed to translate it, but here's the part that gets me. Did you catch this part where, I guess because of their success, that the local authorities in the region of their little town have agreed to pay the organization, the cheerleading kind of like club, 120,000 zlotys?
It was they had to actually pay for them to fly over there and for their housing.
So that's what the government is doing these days. The Polish government is so flush with cash that we're sending cheerleaders to Florida.
Local government. I would like to say that too much. It's not the state government, but local government.
Well,
the thing is, I think it's funny because like cheerleading is something you do not see in Poland and Europe to begin with.
Exactly. This is an American thing. Full stop.
These cheerleaders, they're cheerleaders. They're only cheerleaders. It's not like Poland does not have a tradition of sports teams in high schools, universities that actually have cheerleaders there leading cheers.
I
These cheerleaders actually train to just be cheerleaders, but they're not actually leading the cheers of any organized sport.
I know some Polish cheerleaders, actually. But I'm not going to expand on that.
That sounds like a joke, no?
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave it there.
Oh.
But I do.
Polish cheerleaders. It sounds like a Pornhub search.
No.
I think, John, you're a little more experienced when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Wait, what?
Oh, nice setup.
Oh, I think you just sucker punched me there somehow.
Tyson Fury.
Oh, yeah. I've got a couple things left, but they're kind of like downers. I don't want to talk about it. Plus, we've done enough this week. So, I think that's going to do it for our double dose of the news this week. So much to talk about. We had to do it twice. And like I said earlier, we didn't really have anything else to talk about. So we'll come back with something more interesting.
Enjoy your May weekend, everybody.
Interesting next week. Yeah, enjoy your May weekend, May 1st. Constitution. No, sorry, I got that wrong. Labor Day on Sunday, and then May 3rd, Constitution Day.
Remember Flag Day. We had an episode. Everybody go back and listen to that.
Flag Day stuck in between there on Monday. Yeah, last year we talked about flags. I think I said something to the effect that I thought the Polish flag was really boring. I think
yes.
That was my point.
Do you think because it's just like two colours arranged in a horizontal stripe?
And it's just there's no effort there at all. There's no effort.
So what do you think about the Ukrainian flag? Because I guess
same thing.
Okay,
I think.
But at least that's kind of represent. It's a symbolic. It's the cornfield and the blue sky. What is the Poland
wheat? I think
Polish flag.
Red of the. It's not blood. I don't know. I should know that. But no, the most European flags show a very obvious lack of effort. I mean, come on, people. You can't do it. There were two decisions to make 1,000 years ago when they made these flags. Two decisions. Are we going to have two colors or three? And are we going to go horizontal or vertical? And that was it. That was the end of it.
Well,
British flag is great. Love the British flag. Macedonia, Iraq, excellent flag. Going outside
Greek
of Europe.
Greek flag's not too bad.
Which one?
Greek flag.
Like the Greek, but again, two colors. Brazil.
Well, there's like rules of heraldry in terms of like which colours can be next to which colours.
Really?
We could maybe do a special on that sometime.
Yeah, let's do that.
Expand
on the first of never.
Cross, no cross.
Brazil, awesome flag. South Korea, beautiful flag. Kenya, fantastic flag. They're out there. There are some great ones out there. But in Europe, I think they're this dull. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Dr. Mike, back me up here.
I agree with you. It's usually like three colors, and you're never quite sure, is that Belgium or is that Hungary or Germany? Or it's like it's always the same colors.
Is that the Netherlands or Russia?
Yeah.
Wait, which way are you holding it? Okay, right,
Italy
exactly.
or Ireland.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. But anyway, enjoy Flag Day. And if I can find my voice, we'll be back next week with hopefully something interesting to listen to. KrakCast.pl. Check out all of our back episodes. 400 episodes. Unbelievable. And at least 20 or 25 are pretty good. So check them out, and we'll see you next time on the KrakCast.